All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Delegate Office Hours. My name is Thomas Flitter with GovCom, so we appreciate everybody being here today. We got a really good packed crowd of folks. We certainly have a great topic to discuss, and others if you want to chime in, but I think our focus today is based on the real world finance split. During the call today, we encourage engagement. Please use the chat feature. So if you have questions, I want to post those so we can try to get to everyone. And also use the raise hand function so I can try to call on you. And we can do this engagement in a nice orderly fashion. So really appreciate everybody being here today. And so I'd like to start off. I know the polling information went out yesterday. We got some good feedback, and I'm going to focus in on real world finance split. I think that was the overarching topic that folks want to talk about. The second we came in with the MIP 7779, but the delegation comp. We're going to be talking about that on the GNR call today. So I'd like to go ahead and I listed the post, the forum post that linked into the Discord channel for everyone. I'm sure you've hopefully had some time to take a look at it, but I'd like to start off by opening the floor to folks that want to begin this discussion, talk about it, your thoughts, your comments, your feedback. But before any of that gets started, again, please be mindful of others and in our chat and discussion. And I will open the floor to who would like to get us kick-started.
Sure. So I can give a brief summary for people who haven't followed the forum post very closely, because it's kind of subtle.
Okay.
And how they set it up. So basically, Christian is unhappy with William's leadership. He thinks they set up real world assets. He thinks William set up real world assets to fail. He told William that. William suggested that Christian set up another CU. And then yesterday morning, William fired Christian and some other people. They responded by putting forth this proposal where they would take over 75% of William's budget. And so that's kind of where they're at. They seem to have be doing a PR blitz with the post today. Yeah, I don't know the exact numbers, Mark. I saw 3 people mention that were resigned, that were fired. William hasn't given his side of the story yet. So if that's the whole team, then fair enough. So yeah, that's the drama side of things. Personally, I think this is a terrible way to handle it, because if we're basically saying we don't have any confidence in William if we're taking away 75% of his budget, but then we're also not offboarding him. So there should be something more firm. It would just be very toxic and create a lot of problems down the line to pass it as is.
All right, thank you, Paul, for getting it kick-started. Who would like to take it from here?
I've got a comment.
All right, thank you, Robert. Go ahead.
Hey, everyone. As a facilitator of the Collateral Engineering Core Services Core Unit, I've been working with Will, and one of the things that my only concern here is to ensure that we have a graceful transition of the work that is currently in progress. And so I'm continuing to work with not only Will, but also the ex-members of the real world finance team to come up with some easy solution just to ensure that we don't have any hiccups in the work in progress. Because right now, as an example, the MIP 65 is the most it's the highest priority that we have. And we need Christian or other legal to be able to help us out with that. But until that happens, we're delayed. And so I just want to be clear that there are some dependencies here I think that there's an easy solution in the way of, there's two conversations in my opinion. I'm only going to address the one that deals with the current work. So if we can just simply come together with a plan for a transition, I've got a listing of some work from Christian that needs to be complete. And then if we can come up with a simple plan to be able to facilitate the transition of that work, if Will has a new team, that's fine. But I just want to ensure that we have the current work to be completed, but without payment of any salaries to the ex RWF employees. They're obviously unwilling to engage, as you would expect. So that's the current situation that I'm trying to resolve. And I'd like to do it in a very, very clean and amicable way between the different core units and the people that are involved as stakeholders. So that's my comment that I have as it relates to the current work.
All right. Thank you, Rob. Really appreciate that comment or comments. Ralph, I'm going to hand it over to you. You had your hand raised next.
Yeah, just for clarification. So the current RWF team has been fired from the company. Is that correct? Like they are, as of now, no longer members or employed or paid by the company who's like responsible for fulfilling that core unit's role. Okay, Mark Phillips says correct.
Yeah, in the chat. Go ahead, Mark. If I was going to go to paper next, but did you want to make? You said correct. Is that right?
The entire team has been fired. That's correct.
Okay, so sorry. So yeah, of course they won't work because they can't, because actually. Okay, so okay, that's very good to know for me. Thanks.
Yeah, right. So I talked to Will yesterday briefly, and he says that he already has a replacement team and that they're already in place and working with him. He also says that he's communicating with key counterparties. I will say I did also reached out to a number of asset originators that we do business with, and they were not particularly well informed and were very relieved to get an email. I guess I was the only one that talked to most of them about this, or several of them read it on the forum first. So yeah, I would like to, I second Robert's priority if we figure out a way to make the the business continuity be the priority here. I don't really have strong opinions about what staff should be doing what, but it's not a great look when asset originators are like, oh, thank God you sent me this email. I was just reading that on the forum and didn't know what was going on. So, and these are people that like are not like just have vaults, but seeking increases or new vaults. So.
All right. Thank you. Wow. Okay. Thank you for that comment. Really appreciate it. Maker, you had your hand raised. I'll give you the floor now.
Okay, so I kind of got the report. What I'm trying to understand status here. So like, who's the list of people Will fired? Who's left formally in, I can just call it RWF2. You know, he hasn't told us who he's hired, right? I'm trying to figure out status before we can figure out movement, right? I mean, talking to AOs and explaining the situation without really knowing formally status. We just have a group of fired people and then a group that's left. I don't see how we can move. I don't know how we can move forward, right? I heard that Christian, so there's people underneath Will that complained that somehow caused a split, but I'm just trying to understand what is the real status here in terms of who's running what and doing what.
And also, why are we talking about it on a public call without them here?
From my perspective, no one's doing anything right now. I mean, the team's fired. I'm trying to move forward with MIP 65 and short-term bond implementations. And Will has been not sending us the legal funds that we need to complete the project for weeks now. Every single day is costing the protocol $50,000. So, I've had to speak with some other large maker holders about the situation, and we're trying to work around that. But, this is extremely unprofessional how everything is played out, and it's costing the protocol real money. So I hope people are thinking about this, given the current situation.
Okay, thanks, Mark, for kind of that update. I mean, I'm just trying to figure out from a business perspective, we have issues we want to move forward on, but it sounds like our RWF0 is effectively stuck here. And whether we have issues or not with this facilitator, I don't know that's true. I agree with everybody. We don't have any really additional information, and we don't have the key parties here to address the issue. So I kind of have a problem with how do we move forward, because we formally have an RWF0 in place. It has a facilitator, and if he's going to remove staff and replace them, this is like me thinking about a department head. Unless I have a very specific reason to replace that department head, I'm going to go with what that department head is doing, right, until otherwise notified. And so I'm curious whether we have any actionable things here or whether we're just talking without information.
All right, thank you, Maker. Thank you, Maker, man, appreciate
Yeah,
that.
I feel like
Okay.
I feel like we're really missing some crucial information here. I just want to second that, because like now it sounds like absolutely unprofessional, totally unacceptable behavior, right? And I don't know if I haven't had many interactions with Will, but I feel like we're really missing a big part of the puzzle here. And so I think we either we have to assess the kind of damage, I think, first, and then we can kind of think about control. And I think what paper did is amazing, just letting our partners know what's up as far as we know, but like I think we need to get that information and as soon as possible, basically now.
Yeah, thank you, Raphael. Appreciate that.
I mean, I like to say that this is a DAO, right? And its ultimate goal, in my opinion, should be to be automated. So I don't think any human being should be worried what DAI is DAI. DAI is equal to $1 US last time I checked, right? So to all the folks who are partners of this protocol, it's still going. DAI is still working, Maker is still working. The whole community is, not the whole community, but a big portion of the community here, delegates are here. So we just don't have enough information, obviously, to come to a conclusion here. But just want to say that to all the RWF providers, RWA providers, sorry, DAI is still going. It's still working, right? Super excited, by the way, of the Huntington Valley Bank executive vote right now for the next 25 million. So yeah, it's good stuff happening in RWAs, and we shouldn't lose that momentum.
All right, thank you. Appreciate that. Got a couple of things in the chat. Just wanted to touch base with. It's like Patrick, you messaged TJ to see if he can join the call if possible. And let's see. Also, we've got Mark says no work will get done in the pipeline without RWF, in my opinion. Nadia says we need RWF-001 to talk about it. It's better to have the main actors discuss these things with them. And yeah, we've got a couple other things too. Just wanted to get y'all's continue this conversation, but one of the things that I see here, Maker also says the problem we don't know who has the authority, responsibility, and right now. It's RF 2.0. It's like real world finance 2.0. I have issues with performing. I don't know, honestly. So A lot of good stuff in the chat here, trying to see if anybody wanted to comment on this. Tim, should we want to go ahead?
So I don't think that we have an issue with who's responsible right now. I mean, the relationship between DAO and real-world finance is through the facilitator, and the facilitator is not in the room. And I think it's not fair discussing this stuff without seeing the other side as well. So we shouldn't talk about that right now. And in terms of responsibility, it's real-world finance, the core unit that we have, that is responsible for delivering.
Mm-hmm.
And if Will thinks he can fire everybody and set up a new team and still keep on delivering, then at least from the DAO perspective, from the delivery perspective, everything is fine. But of course, he has to prove that, right? And right now, we don't have any evidence against or for that. So it's all speculating right now. And the only thing that we can talk about right now is, do we actually want to have a second real-world finance core unit where I have a strong opinion, but others maybe have another strong opinion? But that's the only thing we can talk about right now, without being unfair, I'd say.
Yeah, that makes a good point, Tim. Thank you. Raphael, you had your hand raised?
Yeah. Great point, Shupi. I think totally. I would like to finish this discussion as quickly as possible. We're clearly lacking all the relevant information. Like the only line of inquiry that we currently have is Robert, who's obviously interacting with them, and he could probably like tell us how this process is working at the moment. But I think like let's just finish that. We obviously just lack the right input, and you know, so whatever we do is decided in complete absence of relevant information, and it will not be successful, I think.
Yeah, I want to echo comments here. So there's no point in talking about the current state of real world finance, but I am willing to entertain a discussion about a redundant unit at this point for different reasons, you know, so we could talk about that, but talking about the state of where we're at, I don't think we have enough information. So whether to do that or not is debatable, but whether to sit here and speculate without information, I think it's kind of just a bad call, bad form, and I'm going to avoid it. Other than talking about doing another real world unit just as a contingency sake, both for quality assurance and cross checks.
Okay, yeah. Definitely. Tim, shoot for you. We get hand raised.
So trying to get in the more optimistic way of this call, I totally would love to see more inclinations of what we do. It's not only real-world finance, also protocol engineering is probably even more crucial, that we have another team that can do stuff there. And actually not even because of the bandwidth problem, but also because of the competition problem. So I don't know. I mean, some people could say, yeah, maybe this core unit is not set up for success or whatever. I have no data on that. I don't know. But if there would be a different core unit delivering on the same domain, and they would be better from whatever KPI you would come up, that would be great, right? I mean, this is not only a competition of core units, it would also be a competition of talent that get attracted by another core unit as well. So that's why I'm actually excited about the proposal we see on the forum right now. Mm-hmm. But only because I'm ignoring all the data that I don't have. So I don't know what has been going on there before. I don't know. I mean, it was certainly not something that popped up in Will's mind to fire everybody just in the morning. That was something that evolved over months. Mm-hmm. And we don't have data there. So I'm not judging the proposal based on the data I don't have. I just judge the proposal based on, I actually would like to see more core units competing with each other. Or it's not only about competition. It's I think that's the way how we can scale on the long run.
All right, yeah, that's great points. Thank you, Tim. Got a JustinCase, you got your hand raised. You got the floor.
Yeah. Thank you. I kind of want to echo Tim's notion here that I think multiple core units conducting the same thing is the way forward. And I think we should be really careful to discuss things that we do not have the full picture of. But we do know some things here. Like we know there's we have a core unit that is sort of fragmenting. We have a separate group of people who wants to establish a second core unit, and we can at least discuss those concepts in abstract because those have some consequences, right? The group of people who are now outside the core unit, they represent a real risk of leaving the protocol if they don't get a second core unit, right? Which has some implications. If we go forward with the second unit, that also has some financial implications. And we are right now in a process of trying to reduce our budget. So I don't really see how we can find room for a second core unit of any kind at this moment, even though I think in the abstract and in the long run, that is the way to go. So we can at least start to shape some of these discussions that we need to have in the future when we have a more full picture, and if this is actually a more permanent state of affairs, or if we can somehow manage to salvage the situation and get our core unit back together again somehow.
All
Yeah,
right,
I
thank
just
you.
want to.
Go ahead, Frank. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, man, my fault here.
It's all good.
So yeah, I just want to chime in with regards to MIP 65. Come on, let's get this done. Tish, if you watch this, Eric Grapp, Kristen Peterson, please come on, let's get it done. You know how many days and nights I've spent in this DAO. Didn't care whether it was for money or not. It was for the ethos of MakerDAO, right? So please, come on. Let's get MIP 65. It's something that's needed. Let's see 0x, the name of your new core unit, go to work here and get the MIP 65 across the finish line. That'd be awesome, right? I think a lot of delegates would like to see that happen. And if you guys can make that happen, I think you could get a lot of delegates and MKR owners, token owners behind you. So that's my plea to Tish, Eric Rapp, and Christian Peterson.
Hey, Frank, I don't think it's an issue with them. It's you got to pay the people. Christian as well. I'm not speaking for him, but in my communication directly with him, he's willing to do the work. But we got to pay him. We got to pay TJ and we got to pay Eric if we're planning to use their services. That's really the net of it for implementation. Let's solve that problem and let's separate all the other dynamics out of this. But let's keep the work flowing. There's a lot to do still on MIP 65.
Yeah, that might be the case with, different people think differently. Some people think, you got to get paid first. I look at protocol engineering as the perfect example of a core unit. I'm not picking on any core units that are part of the DAO, but they're an amazing example of what a core unit should be, because these guys just deliver, man. They're not worried about the politics. They just keep on pushing forward. And that's a beautiful thing. And I think, in my opinion, every core unit can learn from them. But yeah, everybody thinks differently, man. If people got to get paid, they got to get paid. What can you do, right? That's just the way it is.
All right, thank you, Frank.
Let's give the team some credit here. I mean, they just still delivered the biggest world asset deal in the entire space. And from my understanding, that was, Eric, TJ, and Christian working on that deal. And then what we need to get MIP 65 across the finish line and some other critical short-term bond projects is legal funds to support Christian. And those funds have been withheld for weeks. And this is costing us real money. The maker holders I've spoken to about the situation are not pleased. And I don't think you can put the blame on Christian, Eric, and TJ, given that they've been fired.
But nobody is here representing Will, right? So we don't know if Will did work or did not work. Like, none of us know that here. Will could have also been a big proponent of pushing these two things forward. We just don't know that.
We've been trying to work with them on MIP 65 and just not getting responses, not getting the money we need to finish it. So I can tell you from my first-hand experience, that's what's happening.
All right. We've got a couple of folks that have their hands raised. I'm going to go to Nadia next. Nadia?
Yeah, let me just turn on my camera. So yeah, I just want to bring like the more human perspective here because I need the delegates to think about that. Like, I think what's happening with real world finance is one example, but we also have another example with strategic happiness. And we all know what I'm talking about, but no one is doing anything about it. And I think all of this, like being a facilitator is horrible. It's super stressful sometimes. And when you read in the forum things that are against your core unit or against yourself, it is something personal. And sometimes it can hurt you, and it can go to like personal level on ways that the community can't imagine. So you all know that Bourbon is not okay right now. I think Will also is not okay, but I will let you guys to talk with him. So I don't know how to manage these kind of things, because I know we are DAO, we need transparency, but also there are sometimes like these delicate situations that it's not okay to like just talk about it on public and start like talking bad about someone and about all the mistakes they did and all of that. So it will be great if we can like use all of these like brains to think about a way to handle these situations where we know that it's not just like a core unit and a business that is affected, but it is also affecting someone in on a personal level. And yeah, like we have to take care also of our team, of our DAO, of our community. So it's just like asking to delegates to think about that. Like, I don't think it's fair to talk about the real world finance guys if they are not here. I think it's also not fair to talk about these like on a public call where like there are a lot of people giving their opinions and maybe hurting the other people. But we need to like create solutions for this. And I'm talking also about strategic happiness. Like I know Bourbon is not having a good time. So yeah, that is what I want to ask you, delegates. Thank you.
Thank you,
All right.
Nadia.
Yeah, thank you, Nadia. Appreciate that. I'll open the floor to comments for Nadia's. Thank you for that perspective. Really appreciate that. Go ahead, Frank. You want to say something? Then I'm going to get over to Do and Maker. We've got a couple more hands raised. Go ahead.
I know. I just words of wisdom right there. I mean, you know, I could do a full disclosure. I had a meeting before this with last second meeting with Chaos Labs. So shout out to them for reaching out, and they just wanted to reach out to me to tell me that they're pretty much done. They don't want to deal with this politics. But I'm not going to get into it. That's another subject. But that, when listening to Omer and Ben of Chaos Labs tell me that this is just not worth it for them. It just goes to show you what Nadia was just saying. Like, man, what are we doing here? Like, we got to do better than this. And yeah, I'll let Maker Man, I think who's up next, go next.
That's all right. Struggling with a difficult issue. I kind of want to segregate 2 points. You know, we started talking about having redundancies in core units. There's some real issues with that. I never really pushed on it because conceptually for me, the idea of redundancies in core units was that they would bid on service contracts, right? But you have a real issue with people behind these things. I mean, it's something I'm very sensitive to. I listen, so I let Nadia go first. Is you have real people here and stuff going on, right? And in a real company, there's an authority and responsibility chain, right? You have to think about this from the DAO perspective. We air all our internal dirty laundry publicly. There's just nothing you can't not do that. If you do, then you're doing something else that most people aren't going to like because you're not being transparent, right? And so, you know, when I sit here, you know, if I think I'm going to take a side, I got to go with the guy who we appointed and who was in charge. Unless someone is going to put up a removal on Will, you basically have to say Will and whatever he thinks he has the authority and the responsibility. And then the question is, how do we deal with that? The other people, you know, when I think about this from a department head standpoint, you know, if half my department resigned and I still have a department head you know, if I'm the guy who's above that department head, I have to make a decision, you know, and the decision probably isn't going to be to rehire the 5 people. It might be, but my decision is going to be to sit and have a real discussion with my department head and go, what the hell happened here? And what are you going to do to restore operations, right? Because you're going to lose manpower, things are going to stop, which is basically what I'm hearing has happened. And so, you know, for us to be able to deal with this effectively, you either are changing the authority and responsibility by dealing with Will and a current team and figuring out a new team, because the idea that we're going to roughshod in the people who have left into a second redundant team, I guarantee you right now, they're going to fight each other. And if that's going to happen, we're going to have a huge amount of other problems to go with it. So I am at the point, given the situative state, I need to hear from Will what has happened with him. And then the people who left, I would like to hear something from them. But that's where all I'm going here is that we're not dual redundancy on 2 different teams that are going to be difficult with each other.
Thank you, Maker. Just want to give you a heads up in the waiting rooms, TJ. He's wanted to join. So just want to give everyone a heads up.
Yeah, sorry for chiming in, but I think like we're just running around in circles. I think we can either work productively and think about what Tim said, to be like the idea of a second RWF unit in the abstract, or we can work on what Robert said. How do we make sure there's continuity on the current efforts? But I think what happened in RWF, we don't know. Let's not talk about it because, you know, we don't have that information. I think it's very simple.
I think, can I go now?
Yes, go ahead. You got the floor.
All right, thank you. I just have 2 points. I think one is that I think it's fair for us to talk about because it still affects the Maker protocol. And yes, it's true that we don't have the full information, and that we also, well, some might say that it should be something that's more private, but at the same time, the purpose of DAO is that to make it transparent and urge them to be transparent, right? I don't think that is something that because of our emotional attachment that we should try to push it to the dark, although some delegates or others might think differently. The second point I also want to talk about is the presence of it, because I know that we talk about like potential this second RWA and then how much achievement they have done, but we also have to remember that at least from the governance side, we have given the facilitator the power to hire or fire if needed within their budget, and then in a way we're undermining it, right? And then I think that it sets a kind of precedence that like, yes, we don't even know like why exactly they were fired or they're laid off. But I think it's a little bit, I mean, we can discuss about it, but I think that it just creates the kind of presence where like, okay, so now we think they might be fine because they have done this kind of work, but then I think that we have to have some kind of principle that it is now within their domain, and then in some way it's like sabotaging the current CU. So that's kind of my thinking. And obviously, once again, like yes, details we have to be weighed out, but I think it's too really early to jump to the gun and just say that this will create a healthy competition.
Hey guys, it's TJ. If you guys have any questions, we're kind of at this stage an open book, and we just kind of want to move forward and try to set up a core unit that builds out RWAs, builds interesting things with good people. So if there are any questions about what happens, I'm happy to answer them directly. If you guys would prefer to, I don't know, keep the specifics offline and focus on the MIPS and the way to move forward, whether that's business continuity or we're sorting out this mess, happy to do that. But yeah, if there are questions, I'm here. Otherwise, we've got a bit of a presentation we'll do on GNR. Very informal, but just explaining kind of why we did what we did, and we hope what we hope is in for the future.
By the way, if anybody does want to ask sensitive questions, there is the ability to pause the recording, so we can take anything out of the recording beforehand. So Thomas, just keep that in mind if anybody requests it.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Dave. All right. All right. Thank you, TJ, for joining us. The floor is open. Any questions?
It's not really a very contentious item, so I understand if there's no inquiries.
I have a
I
question.
mean,
Is it okay to
I'll
ask?
give you
or-
some context, I guess, if you want, Teach, but it's like, if you guys are going to bring a presentation about business continuity, that was the primary concern. Then there were other discussions. You can catch the replay later. So if you're going to do that in 20 minutes, that's a better forum for that.
Well, no, I mean, that's going to be a sort of a some casual thoughts about how, you know, we can navigate this process while also honoring the obligations to both existing vault holders, deals that just got closed in SocGen and HVB, as well as, you know, what prospective MIP6 applicants expect from real world finance going forward. But, you know, there's no slide deck. So if there are specific questions about how we would aim to, in fact, continue business as usual, or anything about the backdrop of the 3 MIPS, I'm happy to answer it here. Otherwise, we can sort that on GNR if you guys want.
Hey, TJ, I shared the document that Christian put together about the work that's in progress as it relates to business continuity. So just keep that in mind. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Great.
Thanks, Robert.
All right. Josh, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I mean there's lots of questions in my mind, but kind of the like your team, Christian and TJ and Erica. I mean, I feel like you've done really stellar work here in bringing real world assets to the protocol. And you know, I know it takes a month or two for a MIP set to get approved. So I'm just wondering, do you have a plan for, like, are you happy to wait that long? Like, do you have funding available to you know, continue the work that you're doing now and to keep going 100% on getting your deals, keeping the deal flow intact and making progress?
Yeah, so look, I mean, it's obviously a tricky situation, right? Because we have to go through the traditional governance process. I hope, you know, being part of prospective RWF-0x, that we do in fact get a mandate and get resources, you know, but ultimately this interim, I think I can speak for the whole team. We just care about doing good work and maintaining the reputations hopefully we've built. And so that means keeping the obligations that we've made to external counterparties, you know, originators who continue to rely on the protocol, as well as, to the extent we can now, as I suppose we're regulars, because on Tuesday we received termination letters, which was odd, that we can continue to service those relationships and answer questions, you know, for folks like Pando, for folks like Block Tower. We expect Anchorage to put together a great MIP6 soon. And so, look, the money, at least for me, I'll let Eric speak for himself. I don't really care about the money, right? I just want to continue to do good work. I can float myself for as long as we need to. We saw Luca float himself for 6 months while continuing to contribute to this protocol. I intend to do the same. I do hope at some point to be paid for the work, but to the extent that I, as a regular, can continue to maintain existing vaults and help, you know, push forward new prospective vaults, I intend to. I think, you know, Robert can talk a little bit more about this. I think he and CP have talked about how to, kind of from a financial point of view, you know, keep a stockpile of the resources that allow for us to continue doing business, especially on, you know, critical things like the treasury management, the bond strategies. But yeah, that's kind of the viewpoint I take. As long as it's not, you know, 9 months of limbo, I'm happy to keep contributing and pushing forward this initiative, because I spent the last year in this, and it's what I want to keep doing. That's why we're pushing for a new core unit and an open mandate with some resources.
I would second TJ. I mean, I think this is what, probably a 4-week process to iron out. I mean, I can float myself, though I certainly hope we can resolve it quickly. I mean, apologies for not being on here, but I'm actually on a family vacation. It's my wife's birthday today. But I started getting some people on the phone telling me I should try to show up here. I was planning to just do the governance, so I'm going to have some apologizing to do later tonight. But no, I think we've got a good plan. I mean, I think it's a lot of it's continuity. You know, after these last couple quality deals are done, you know, there's block towers showing up. I mean, there's a lot of good things going on, and I think there's a lot of demand for increasing quality and innovative deals. You know, the last two deals are good, but how do you actually innovate and put more stuff on the blockchain next time around? I mean, some of us have been in this game a long time and are more driven by the innovative nature of it as opposed to just booking business. You know, it's easy to do kind of off-chain deals. You know, I've done hundreds. You know, how do you actually innovate in a more meaningful way and change the playing field? I mean, I think that's what really drives us. You know, and I mean, I know Tej feels that, and so does Christian. I mean, we could always go back to kind of Wall Street, you know, where you probably get paid more, but you know, it's a different game.
Yeah, and I just want to say happy birthday to Mrs. Rapp for celebrating her birthday, and I hope you guys having a good time. And just to Teach's point, you know, we've had a lot of individuals like Loan for Wisdom, Primosh of the unit, and even guys like Makerman who got shortchanged, and eventually they got paid for what they deserve. So don't sweat it. Like, you know, I know you weren't on here, TJ, earlier, but I did send out a message in this recording that if you guys are able to do anything, and I kind of got the gist that if you don't have funding, you can't get stuff across the finish line. But if you could help NIP 65 or anybody else, like I think you mentioned Anchorage a second ago, you know, put up NIP 6, that'd be great for the community, man. Because as you mentioned, like a lot of us do this for the passion and the love of the DAO, right? And apologies for the sound back here, but yeah, I'll get off the mic now.
Folks, it's not unusual to pay people as contractors. Any core unit could pay them as contractors. A ton of money has been returned to the DAO from RWF. We just need to figure out how to allocate the funds and pay people for their work. People need to be paid for their work.
Yeah, but
I think that's the end of the day. I mean, the three of us honestly have done, you know, most of the work in the last 6 months, and we've done these deals and we've done the criteria, and we just want it to work. At the end of the day, you know, there's obviously some difference with Will, and he wants to go a different way, but we like what we're doing. We love working together. We like working with Maker. There's a lot of quality people like Robert, and you know, we just want to take this to the next level. And I mean, I wish Christian was here. I think he's got some other engagement he has to make. It's originally his motion, but just feeling we want to be set up to succeed as a team. You know, and he was feeling strong, though we'd have to agree that we were feeling we weren't really being set up to succeed. I think we could have done more in the last 6 or 7 months, you know, than we had, but we just really weren't being enabled to do as well as I think we should have, nor as well as I think the community deserves. For example, Tej just posted something today on how the assets are performing, an update on what are we doing over the last month. You know, in my mind, those should go out every month. There should be a discussion where everyone freaking attends who wants to. People should say, hey, I want to see more on this issue around, you know, here's the whole portfolio. I mean, I'm coming from credit, private credit. You run through the whole goddamn book, asset by asset every month. And, you know, we should be there and show people, here's what we're doing. Here are the assets. Here are the concerns. Here are the trends. You know, and people want to see more of one asset, let's roll into it. You know, I mean, that's just the game. If you're not really proactive in how you're managing a credit book, you're ultimately asking for trouble. And in a sense, we want to outsource more of this, but you still need to keep kind of an oversight of here's the asset book, here's how it's performing, you know, and we should help people, and because it's not easy to learn structured finance, but we should help people get there as opposed to kind of hiding in a corner. We need to be out there front and center when someone says, you know, what's a bond versus a loan? You know, that's a fair question. You know, I didn't know that 20 years ago. You know, take the time to explain it, you know, and engage people proactively, you know, where they're at and get them more up to speed on what we're doing and why, you know, and getting their feedback. There's clearly other things we probably miss. You know, I'm certainly smart enough to know that I'm not smart enough to be able to do this all by myself, or even with the three of us. You know, when you're doing credit type stuff, you can always miss things. You know, you always want to hear, you know, other people's views. You know, they're looking at the same assets and thinking about the risk. Because at the end of the day, when you're making loans, you own risk. You're putting risk on your books. And hopefully everything you expect goes well and you get paid your 4 or 5%. But you always got to be thinking, you know, what can go wrong and what did I miss? Which is the antithesis of DeFi and crypto and venture equity in a way, where it's all about, is this 5 times return, 20 times return, 100 times return? And we're like, fuck, give me my 5% interest in my capital back and I'm A-okay. It's a very different set of glasses. You kind of have to wear the glasses, the world sucks or the world is shit. And I'm like, I got to go around, how's every way I can lose money and think of things that way. You know, and it's a bit obsessive. And in some ways, I'm glad we're innovating here. You know, it's more fun to innovate, which is more kind of thinking of the positive, but to not lose money and be a good lender, you got to be very kind of skeptical, you know, like the grumpy old lender, like, no, I want my money back. That's a bad idea. Next, you know, I mean, you really have to own the risk and protect it. You know, when you have a pile of capital, there's a lot of folks out there that want your capital. And at the end of the day, a lot of them want to do stuff that is really equity risk that should not be funded with debt capital, but they're going to tell you how it's really great risk and it's really appropriate for a senior secured when they should be going and getting equity somewhere. And you're not always going to make friends doing that either. You know, people always want to take more risk with your debt capital and then they get all the upside and you get all the downside. And there's a lot of areas to innovate, but again, let's not innovate on finding new ways to lose money. For the last several hundred years, people have hammered like this basic stuff out. It's like the financial laws of lending. They're almost like gravity. You can fly for a little bit, but if you're doing bad, foolish lending, eventually the laws are going to pull you down like a Icarus and you're going to smash right into the earth. So you need to be smart, you know, and a bit skeptical of how you lend. You know, it's a little different than thinking equity investing.
Yeah, I just want to ask you guys, like you guys like did a really awesome job onboarding HBB and Sutton, like really awesome. But now it's kind of confusing in terms of processes because this will be like the first time we have kind of 2 core units doing the same competing, which I think it's fine, but that means we have to understand and think all together the process, because if we have like a new partner who wants to be onboarded, like who is the core unit that will do the risk assessment, both core units, like, or we are going to split the deals into, I don't know, I have no idea, but it will be good that we start thinking about that, because like, you know, like Robert and I, we have processes inside our teams. So like we need to know like, okay, we are going to involve TJ or Eric or Christian or Will, I don't know, in the next call. So it's good to think about the process to follow. Also because, and this is more thinking about governance. If you guys are not part of a core unit and you don't have a mandate, like I shouldn't be like involving you on the calls, because it makes no sense. Because like if we have a core unit with a mandate, like that core unit should be doing their risk assessment and maker holders should be like reading their risk assessments. I don't know, like actually, I don't know if a community member that is not ratified by governance can like work on these things. I really don't know. That's the only.
That's a really good question.
Yeah, because yeah, I mean, it's great that you want to like keep working, and I think continuity is like the most important thing right now. Like this shouldn't be a problem for people outside Maker. This shouldn't be a problem for our partners. This like, yes, we have to define how we are going to manage this. I think that's the most important now.
Yeah, I think Robert's previous comment answers this pretty well. You know, obviously there is a difference between an external contractor, if you want to call us that, as of Tuesday morning, and a core unit with resources and a mandate from the DAO. But I think ultimately, you know, in terms of business continuity, we want to do and put forth a risk assessment, structure, and negotiation that the external counterparties expect. And so if you have competing core units, for example, right, the external counterparties should be able to interact and liaise with whichever group they're more comfortable with, right? What CP, Eric, and I are hoping for when we get our mandate and hopefully resources is that we really face these institutional counterparties that speak structured finance, right? Those are our backgrounds. Those are the deals we're hoping to focus on and be able to innovate on those deals. I think it probably makes more sense to the extent that there is a separate core unit that is in APAC for it to focus maybe on a more sort of innovative emerging market consumer debt-esque solutions. But yeah, look, in the interim, we plan to continue to respect our obligations and do good work for the DAO, whether that means we are, regulars on the forum or real world finance core units.
All right. Thank you, Nadia. Thank you guys for your responses. I'm gonna go to Raphael, then we've got a few minutes. So I'm gonna go and wrap up. Go to Raphael.
Yeah, just want to echo Nadia's point, because I think at the moment, I love, basically, so huge respect for your work, and also that you're generous enough to say basically funding yourself until you can get paid. So that's amazing. So thank you very much. That's great. But I think we have to just for me, the worst case scenario would be you continue with these relationships, and at the same time, the other core unit tries to barge in there, and then they get, I think, how do we avoid that?
Look, I think these things actually happen very naturally. It depends who the originator is or who the counterparty is, right? But I mean, take someone like Block Tower, right? Block Tower come from Wall Street, right? They expect very specific things. Eric and I have spent time getting comfortable with these guys, looked at sort of what the MIP6 is, advised them on the process, right? No other core units have a relationship with that counterparty. And you're dealing with a significant sum of money, a significant exposure on behalf of the DAO. And the relationship needs to be tight such that you can build these things. It's not like, who does Block Tower speak to? It's like Block Tower wants to speak to a group of people that they know and that they can speak to the competence of. So I think there are some edge cases in terms of, especially with Nadia's group, right? New business. What do you do with new business? I don't know exactly, right? What we're focused on is trying to sort out this issue as professionals and move to a place where we can continue to onboard collateral. And the question is, how do we get from point A to point B without creating so much chaos that it scares everyone away, right? How do we not scare Block Tower away? How do we not scare Anchorage away? Anchorage is willing to do business with us. This is a huge compliment to MakerDAO and to real world, to the onboarding of real world assets, right? They want to put together a hash power backed loan facility, a large facility that they administer, right? This is the only federally regulated crypto banking license in the US, and they want to do business with us. So I think these things are really more obvious. It's a little awkward, the contractor core unit.
Sorry for barging in, but my point is, I don't know the kind of relationship that you have with Will. And I think for me, it's and I get it, you take the relationships with you, but I just imagine the partner going with you and then getting bombarded by emails from the other CU of hey, why are you talking, this kind of drama.
Look, that could be possible. I think it's about, can we find a way to be professionals to the outside world as we deal with our internal problems, right? And that is very much, I hope that everyone is on the same page. Whatever happens here, right? We've gotten to a very specific point in terms of MakerDAO's reputation to the external world. We must protect that with everything we can. So whether that's delegates, whether that's other core unit facilitators like Nadia or Robert, making it clear to the real world finance core units that, whether or not you like one another, regardless of where, the future of real world finance is, let's make sure we're at least delivering consistent communications to the outside world and being professionals so that we can protect what we've built here.
And then I got to be honest, we've tried to negotiate with Will on good faith, especially on separating up the current pipeline and who wants to do what. He will not engage with us. So it's frustrating, but it definitely feels like our counterparties deserve clarity, and we want to give it to them. I'm a bit annoyed or frustrated by that. Yeah.
All right. I know that this has been one great conversation today. Really appreciate everybody's attending. We're getting close to time. The GNR call will be starting here at the top of the hour in just a minute. But again, thank you for joining us. I know that we'll have more discussion about this very soon. And again, Eric, TJ, thank you guys for joining us to bring your perspective on this. Thank you all the delegates and everyone who attended today. We'll have this recorded and out here very soon. And let's go ahead and wrap up. Thank you all for joining us. Look forward to see you on hopefully the GNR call here in just a minute. Thank you.